It's the annual Phinside Awards. I'll hand out my awards for the most underrated Dolphin, the best offensive MVP, the defensive MVP, special teams MVP, and more awards. On top of that, I will give you my list of, hey, there might be more, but I'll give you the list of my top 10 priorities for the Miami Dolphins heading into the offseason. Also, what happened to the historical offense we saw in the first half of the season? We're going to talk a little bit about that to set you up for a video I'm going to be doing down the line this offseason. And then also, we had a pretty big update on Bradley Chubb's health timeline. We got a ton to go over. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Let's get into it.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it!
You have got to be kidding me.
Jaelan has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score!
Field on the near side, that open. Touchdown!
The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown!
He's going deep. He's got it for the touchdown.
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan.
Let's go!
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We are back here for another one, ladies and gentlemen, as I got a bunch to go over with you guys today. It's a little bit of a matinee show because I got some stuff going on this evening. So I'm around here for this matinee show. Listen, we're going to go over and give out my Phinside Awards. All right, we do this annually, so we're going to do it again this year. On top of that, we're also going to go over my top 10 offseason priorities for the Miami Dolphins. And like I said, going to get some Chubb and Phillips updates regarding their injuries. And we got a really good article from Daniel Fusi talking about what happened to that offense that we saw in the first half. And then my plan is later in this offseason, I'm probably going to do a deep dive into what happened to that offense. I've talked about it before. I'm going to do it again. So that's probably going to be one of the videos I cover this offseason. But do me the favor, as you're here early, smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new. You know the good thing about these matinee shows? I can get through shouting out everyone pretty quickly in the chat. Gavin Hatch, what's going on? Pro Special. Robert Thomason, he says he's home today. Well, brother, it's a snowy day where I'm at today, so a lot of people are home where I'm at too. Coke Master D, Andrew Harris, Knight, Fred Rivera, the homie Chef Jew is in the building. Timothy Washington, how are you doing as well, sir? J-Boy Smith, 1776. Scotty, Mudbone, King DDG, appreciate you, sir. Appreciate you for coming through. You the man, bro. Thank you, sir. So shout out to everyone in the chat. Shout out to J Rin CS for subscribing. Shout out to J Rose. Thank you, sir. I've got the he says the Dolphin hat is dope. I got the updated logo and the old school logo one from back, I was actually at the at Lids yesterday looking at some Dolphin hats. Thinking about what to purchase next, F Money 1234, what's going on? So shout out to all of you coming through the chat. I also got to say, if you haven't had a chance, okay, you got to go search and you got to see the Korean call on that missed field goal. It is absolutely classic. I'm not going to play it because we'll get copyright struck for that. But if you got a chance, you need to go watch that Korean call. It's hilarious. KC says, looking forward to your offseason show. So am I, man. So am I. What the reason why yesterday I named how many needs I've listed for us is because every year I dwindle it down to 5 big board shows. holy boy, do we have do we have some needs, huh? But it's gonna be one of those things where gonna have to let free agency play itself out a little bit here, and extensions play themselves out a little bit here to narrow that list down. Especially center. Center's a big one. What do they do here, right? 2 ACL tears in 4 years and 2 different knees. Connor Williams in his camp, they believe he's played well enough since the transition that he could come close to or potentially reset the market. I don't think he's going to reset it because of the injury. Now, if he would have been healthy, Connor Williams would have reset the market. I still think he's going to get 10 to 12 million. I don't think he's going to reset it because of the injuries, but he's going to get high money because of his play. So it's going to be interesting because, again, I see this is the new fad everyone's talking about right now, right? And we've been talking about it for a couple weeks prior. What do you do? Do you go after, do you target a Cedric Van Pran, right? Do you target a Jackson Powers Johnson? Do you target a Zach Frazier or a Bryce Foster? What do you do there? Right? And I see, mock drafts are coming out today, and I know, I talked about it with you guys either last Fin 2 Deep or the Fin 2 Deep before that. I did a PFF and a PFN mock, and I did one of each, and in one I got in one I took care of a few of our needs, and in another I went. So anyways, in both of them I took Troy Fautanu because he fell to me at 21 from Washington. But in one, with our next pick, I took Jadavion Sanders, and then in the other one, in the PFF one with our next pick, because he was still on the board, Jeremiah Trotter, junior linebacker. So I took a tight end and a linebacker, just depending on the way the board falls. Because people got to remember, when you're doing those 3-round mocks, guys, just to get yourself warmed up, Dolphins don't have a 3rd-round pick. You can thank Stephen Ross and company for forfeiting that. So, yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you, sir. Yeah, they'll be coming. I would listen. If the board doesn't fall your way, trade down from 21. You need more picks. You just got to hit on them because you got to supplement, right? You do need more picks, though. So, EJ says, go draft your guy at 21 and re-sign Hunt. So yeah, Troy Fautanu and then draft Hunt. Yeah. I mean, or you could draft the guard. Because I saw someone, there's no way they could tier defensive lineman at 21. What are you talking about, man? I'm not saying it's you, EJ. I saw someone on social media. And I was like, do these people not remember where Quentin Johnson was drafted and how dominant that man was? Stop. If they're good, they're good. Doesn't matter where you take them, right? So, 20s, early 20s, even late teens is if the center is good enough, you can see them start to go. But usually that's a centers usually start, if they're good enough, they'll start going in the 20s now. I mean, go back to 2020. Where did Cesar Ruiz go, right? Right before our pick. So it's it's a finicky situation, right? So listen, all I care about is get blue chip talent where you can get it. I don't care. I don't care. Listen, here's where I'm at. I've already told y'all. There's only 3 players I'd trade up for: Brock Bowers, Joe Alt, and Olu Fashanu. Right? Those are the only 3 players I'd trade up for. Other than that, BPA, baby. And I'm hoping it's BPA on the offensive line. I really am. We need that. Listen, I'm not buying the hype of us taking a wide receiver at 21. I'm just not buying the hype. Why? That high? Stop. You would need someone you would need someone special to fall to you at 21. Like, for example, remember how CeeDee Lamb was falling in the 2020 draft and he went one pick before we took Austin Jackson? Right? You need something like that to be falling. Right? Because I see people, I see mocks and stuff like that taking a wide receiver. I just can't get down with a receiver at 21. No, I'm stop. Like, you can get receivers in deeper rounds with what we're looking for. We're not looking for a primary boundary. We're looking for a guy who can work the slot. So, no, I'm not down. Like, I think that the priority should be offensive line, whether it's bulking up the interior or if Terron Armstead's successor is sitting there. Those are what I would be eyeing. Terron Armstead's successor or bulking up that interior with the best blue chip talent possible on that interior offensive line. That's what I would be looking at. Right? That's why that would be where my eyes would be on. Now, again, this goes back to what I talked about. If we re-sign Connor Williams, they're not taking someone at 21. We're going to see. That's one of the biggest dominoes of this offseason for the draft is obviously what happens with Connor Williams. That might be the biggest domino. Seriously, I'm not even just gassing you up. South Florida Don says BPA all the way. Here's to your reason. Appreciate you, South Florida Don. The Don of the chat. Always supporting the channel. Him and his son, good people. Right? Listen, Timothy. Ryan Haynes was like, when we start getting into 6th, 7th round pick talk to be the successor of Terron Armstead, I'm going to proceed with caution. And if a blue chip talent is falling, if it's Alt or Olufashinu is falling, I'm moving up for them. Or if there's someone on the board at that spot, you know what I mean? Now, I don't know if I totally see, Talise Fuaga, I don't see him drop. I don't know if he's going to be there. I mean, Tyler Guyton might be there. I think J.C. Latham might be gone, but he's also like a right tackle. So, I don't know. We'll see. You always look at that guy from BYU. I always butcher his name. You got Kingsley Suamatia, and then you got Amarius Mims from Georgia. And Jordan Morgan from Arizona has been a hot name at the back half of the first round as these mocks have come out. So there's going to be tackle options potentially on the board at 21. You know what I mean? It's just there might be a more blue chip interior player available. Because remember, Troy Fautanu, he's projected probably going into left guard, but he can also offer you swing left tackle because he played left tackle, right? So, honestly, if when you start getting into talking about like Tyler Guyton, Mims, or Morgan, or Troy Fautanu, I would probably take Troy Fautanu over those guys. So, also, if they pay Connor, do we really have to see? No, they could get a back. I think you will because they believe in the project. But they could get a backup, but they're not going to invest the 21st pick if they bring back Connor. That's just they're not going to invest that money, and then there's going to be no reason, right? You're basically drafting a future first rounder, so I don't think they'll do that. So like if we re-sign Connor Williams, go Troy Fautanu, go lock it down, and right if you bring back and you've got your guard now. Right? Like, there you go. See, this would be disgusting. If you could get Fautanu in the first round, and then you could get Van Pran in that second round with that second pitch, which I don't think you will be. He'll be gone. If you could get Fautanu and Van Pran, Cedric Van Pran, and you're like, oh my God. That line right there when they're healthy that's Studley right there. Scotty. That is Studley. If you're going to take Jackson Powers-Johnson, who I think Jackson Powers-Johnson is a little bit better of a fit in what we asked to do in this offense, what we ask of our linemen. I think he's he's really good at, he's got good athleticism, climbs to the second level pretty fast as a run blocker. He's got he's a really powerful guy. The only, and the thing is, he's not even like fully, like Cedric Van Pran is much more experienced than Powers Johnson is. Like Jackson Powers Johnson still has more of a ceiling to grow to. He would probably be my center one. I'd probably put Van Pran as my two. But and remember, Powers Johnson has played left guard, center, right guard. He's played all three interior positions. So, I would probably have him as my number one guy, and then Van Pran would be my number two, because I do like Powers Johnson's length a bit better than Van Pran as well. So, but man, don't tempt me with a good time, Scotty. Huh? That's what I got to say to you. All right. So, Knight's here. Knight says Fatnu at 21, and then he wants to go tackle. He wants Kingsley. I always butcher his last name, Suamatea. So I always butcher his last name. He's the kid from BYU, 6'6", 315, big boy. So Kingsley Suamatea, we'll just go with that. I always butcher his last name. Yeah, that's where you're going. You want to go guard and tackle, and you want to get that another year. Kingsley Kingsley with a year under Armstead would be good. I think he needs a little bit of time to develop, right? I don't think he's ready to plug and play like, the Fashanu, the Alts, and the Fuagas, and, et cetera, et cetera. Even I think J.C. Latham's more ready to plug and play right now. So, could they get a first for Wilkins in a tag and trade? I don't know. I think they don't have enough leverage for a first. What I would do if you want to trade him is just transition tag him. I think the smartest thing to do is transition tag him. Treat him like Lamar. Why not? Let someone else set the market. If you don't like the money, take the draft pick. If you're going to franchise tag him, you might as well transition tag him. That's what I'd do. You could get a first for Tyreek right now. You could get a first and probably a day 2 pick for Tyreek right now. I really do believe that after what he's done, you could get a first and a day 2 pick for sure. That's probably our most valuable player asset wise right now, right? And then other than our young defenders, right? And Waddle and such. So, yeah. That's you could get something decent for Tyreek Hill, but I don't think they'll be trading Tyreek Hill. Scotty agrees with me. He says transition tag makes the most sense right now, bro. It's lower than the franchise tag, and it lets someone else set the market, and you get a good draft pick if someone ponies up $24 million. Reason it hedges your bet. At worst, Fatnu, it can kick inside if Kingsley isn't ready. Exactly. Yeah, I agree with that. There's zero chance. Yeah. You want to hear something crazy? They would trade Waddle before they traded Tyreek. That's the reality of the situation. I wouldn't necessarily agree with it because of Waddle's age, and he's still got a ceiling, but they would trade Waddle before they traded Tyreek. That's the reality of the situation. For the window they're in right now, that's the reality of the situation. J. Rose, I'm down to trade back. If the board doesn't fall, right? If all the best linemen are gone, Fatnu's off the board, I'd trade back 110%. Listen, at 21, you either got to hope the board falls your way and some guys slip, or trade back is a real possibility, I think. Yeah, South Florida on. If Connor stays, Eichenberg will back him up for sure. Timothy says I would re-sign Wynn and Hunt and draft a center and left tackle. Listen, I'm down to bring back Wynn on the cheap. I am down to bring one back. But the problem with Wynn is it'll be another 1-year deal on the cheap. You got to prepare for the fact that when was his last 16, well, now 17 game? When was his last fully healthy season? And this is another reason. You ain't wrong, EJ. You got to supplement with the draft, right? The Rams and such, they've been hitting on their draft picks. You got to hit on your draft picks, right? Here, this is how you got to approach this $40+ million over the cap, right? You either got to hit on your draft picks or you got to trade your draft picks and push contracts down, further down. That's what you got to do. And the best way for the transition is hitting on your draft picks. It's just easier said than done, right? So, anywho, let's get into it. Let's get into my, we got some of these things we're going to talk about here. Let's talk about my, my top 10 priorities for the Miami Dolphins this offseason, all right? Number 1, you need to decide whether Tua plays on the 5th year or gets extended. Why? Because that basically, now you understand what you are going to do with your money, right? Wilkins, the whole reason why Wilkins wanted to get paid, he wanted to get the bag before the quarterback got the bag. Everyone wants to get the bag before the quarterback gets the bag, right? Because they take the biggest chunk of the cap. But the ripple effects of this decision are huge. Are you going to get that extra cap relief? Right? Now, how do you restructure guys? And who do you restructure? You got to decide whether Tua plays on this 5th year or he gets extended. That's like priority number 1. We got to move forward. Either he's getting extended and we're getting relief, or you got to move forward and plan with him playing on his 5th year option. Figure it out. Number 2, right after that, does Wilkins get a new deal? Are you going to franchise tag him? Are you going to transition tag him? Are you going to let him walk? Let me ask you this. Let's say you extend to and create more cap. Let's say Christian Wilkins wants Quinnen Williams type money. Do you give Christian Wilkins do you give him Quinnen Williams type money? Or do you say flirt with the prospect of, Chris Jones, who's going to be a free agent? Who, next to Aaron Donald, is the most dominant interior defensive lineman in the NFL? Listen, I wouldn't pay either $24+ million. Let me make that clear. I'm just saying. So, you got to figure, that's number 2. Because if you're franchise tagging him, that money's straight on the books. There ain't no playing with it. There ain't no relief. So you got these first 2 decisions, figure out the relief and your path to getting under the cap. Number 3, we just talked about. Who do you pay on this interior offensive line? Because now it plays into the first 2, gentlemen and ladies. If you pay Wilkins, do you really think you can bring back both Robert Hunt and Connor Williams, who are going to be asking both for probably $10+ million a year? That's a tough sell. That is a tough sell. I don't know how that you create that. I mean, you got to create $60 million, $65 million just to give Wilkins his contract. So if you got to clear that much money just for Wilkins, and now you got to clear a bunch more money, and we haven't filled out the 53, I just don't, oh man, this goes back to Wilkins. I don't know if I see the money there. Think about this. I want y'all to think about this. For the money Wilkins is asking for, let's put it at $24 million, ladies and gentlemen. For the money he's asking for, you could extend Connor Williams and Robert Hunt. And here's the other problem. Zach Sealer's in the building. Why does that matter? We're getting identical production for half the price. So what? You're going to pay one guy half of what the other guy, but they both produce at the same rate? You got to ask yourself, do I want Robert Hunt and Connor Williams, or do I want Christian Wilkins? That's what you got to ask yourself. Do I want 2 offensive linemen, or do I want Christian Wilkins? That's the question. Like, listen, I'm sure there's a way to bring all 3 back. I don't think it's feasible, but I'm sure there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. But you got to ask yourself, who do you want back? Christian Wilkins, or basically half of your offensive line? 2/5 of your offensive line. 40% of your offensive line, or Christian Wilkins? That's the real question. Now, number 4, what players should be restructured? An interesting thing no one's talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Why don't you extend Tyreek Hill? All right. A new Tyreek Hill deal and you could change the structure, and that could allow Miami to pay him a large bonus again versus a cap hit. A Tyreek extension could save $20 million because you could play with the money and move the money around. There's another one. But who do you restructure? Right? You don't want to restructure Teron Armstead. Well, they might, but that pushes money to guaranteed money to next year. Or, sorry, that pushes money to next year on Teron when he's probably going to retire. Let's be honest. So, you got to figure out, after you figure out who you want to pay on the offensive line, who your target guys are, and after you figure out what to do with Tua and Wilkins, now restructure. And what players are you going to restructure? And on the flip side, you know, what players are going to be cap casualties? We pretty much know X is going to be a post-June 1st designation. We know he's gone. Jerome Baker, is he going to be restructured and take a lot less money? Or is he going to become a cap casualty? So, you know, what's going to happen with, you know, is Jeff Wilson going to become a cap casualty? Is Mostert, you can save money because Mostert has no guaranteed money left. But I think Mostert and McDaniel are tied to the hip. Ogba, right? We pretty much known Ogba all year was basically a dead man walking in Miami in terms of cap casualty. Number 6, you got to replace Danny Crossman. I'm sorry. After what we've seen from special teams dating back to Week 17 against us and into the playoffs, not good enough. Berrios was very underwhelming on special teams. Whoever approved bringing in Jake Bailey should be fired alone. Danny Crossman needs to go. McDaniel, you need to go get your guy, and that needs to be retooled. That whole unit needs to be retooled. I'm sorry. God. It's our worst unit, like, by far. 7, you got to keep Fangio happy. Listen, we got confirmation basically from Ben Albright that he's coming back, but at the same time, he's a wild card, man. You got to keep Fangio happy. Does that mean bringing Sean Desai? Maybe. Does that mean finding a way to work out ABG coming back? Maybe. But whatever it is, you got to do it. And 8, you got to retool his defense. Fangio, you know what? A reason why I'd be down for trading back to, ladies and gentlemen? We can give him some defensive picks to retool his defense. Because if Wilkins walks, he's going to want to draft another interior guy. Or do you bring back Raekwon Davis? He's going to need to draft a linebacker. Or find a linebacker in free agency to pair with David Long. And whether Jerome Baker stays or not, we got no depth. Duke Riley's not good enough. We got to figure out what we're doing beyond Cam Smith. Because, guys, if you cut X, Needham ain't coming back. Do y'all think Eli Apple's going to come back? I mean, besides Jalen Ramsey, Kader Kohu, Ethan Bonner, and Cam Smith, what kind of depth are we talking about at corner right now? Corner's a sneaky position that no one's talking about that's going to be real hurt with depth. Right? Howard, X and Apple are gone. Needham's probably gone. I don't see Justin Bethel coming back. Out of our 53-man roster to end the season, only Jalen Ramsey, Cam Smith, Kader Kohu, and Ethan Bonner, who was called up, are our guys right now. And then on top of that, guys, Brandon Jones is about to be a free agent, right? He's got no fifth-year option. We didn't extend him. And it looks like we might lose Deshaun Elliott. That secondary is going to need some serious retooling. That secondary is going to be some serious retooling, ladies and gentlemen. You got no corner depth. Again, your corners from your 53 this year, including call-ups, are Kader Kohu, Ramsey, Cam Smith, and Ethan Bonner. And then your safety room right now is basically Javon Holland and Elijah Campbell. Now, does Elijah Campbell, because they loved him in camp, does he step up and take that strong safety role? I don't know. But then who's the depth behind him? Brandon Jones is gone. That secondary is hurting. That secondary needs help. So you got to retool this defense. Number 9, you're going to have to find a consistent third receiving threat. Whether that's a tight end, whether that's finally finding a slot guy who can step up when one of these guys go down. Josh Hart says Nick Needham gone too. Nick Needham, his deal's about to be up, brother. He's got to be re-signed, and it doesn't seem like they're real fans of him by the end of the season there. But you got to find a consistent third receiving threat. Like, we have nothing. Again, talk about guys, Barrios is going to be gone. Right? Craycraft, do you bring him back? Cedric Wilson, gone. Robbie Chosen, gone. Chase Claypool couldn't catch a cold at the end of the season, let alone run good routes. Your third receiving threat is how the season ended. It's Durham Smythe right now. You need better than Durham Smythe. Eric Izakama needs to get healthy. I know they had big plans for Eric Izakama and what he could be in this offense, but he needs to step up if he's going to be back. We need return. We need ROI on the Eric Izakama pick. We've gotten zero return on investment for that pick. Now I know he's had health issues pop up and stuff like that, but we need to get that right. Because that's the big body, fast guy we've been waiting for to come into this offense. And number 10, McDaniel needs to grow as a coach and learn from his mistakes. I'm going to tell you this right now. Yeah, he needs to get better as situationally as a play caller. 110%. From the 20 to the 20, he's good. Inside the 20, especially situationally, lack of committing to the run inside the 20, you need to get better with it. I'm going to say this too. and I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to look into the windows to all of your souls when I say this. McDaniel needs to kill the word in league circles that he's one of the worst adjusters in the NFL. And this could be hereditary coaching-wise. And you're going to say, Reason, what are you talking about hereditary with coaching? What's Shanahan known as? Kyle Shanahan's known. What's he known as? What separated McVay from Kyle Shanahan? McVay's a better adjuster than Kyle Shanahan. Right? Even down to if you beat him with a concept badly, he'll adapt that concept for the next season. Like, McVay has no ego with that. It feels like McDaniel is the closest to Shanahan in terms of his second half adjustments. Guys, we can all admit the Niners squeaked it out. Their adjustments after Deebo Samuel went down were not that good. Kyle Shanahan is renowned for not being a great in-game adjuster. And I think that's where McDaniel took that trait with him. I think that's a legitimate, I think that's where the adjustment comes from. Or the lack thereof. And, hey, Shanahan knew what he was doing. There's an art to calling plays. Why do you think Shanahan doesn't let all of his proteges call plays under him, and he calls it? Because he says, okay, you can take your mind, you can take what you bring to our table to another table, that's fine, but I'm not giving you that art form. I'm not giving you the secret to that. See, that's where Shanahan makes up for not being a great in-game adjuster. He's still a pretty damn good play caller. William Carr says we should clear enough space to tag and trade Wilkins. Greer can't let Wilkins walk. He can probably yield a first rounder. This year's draft has first round DTs. I don't know if he's going to yield a first rounder because of the money that's going to have to be paid. When you got to pay an interior defensive lineman Quinnen Williams type of money and give up a first round pick, usually teams only do that for offensive impact players. They don't really do that for interior defensive linemen. And if it's going to be a defensive impact player, it's usually a pass rusher. Usually an edge or a corner a team would give up a first round pick and then turn around and pay. And listen, anything is possible in the NFL. But I don't know if I see a team ponying up a first-round pick and then having to turn around and pay Christian Wilkins. Right? It goes back to one of Bill Parcells' golden rules. Now, we break it all the time. But one of Bill Parcells' golden rules was never pay twice for a player. Right? Never play draft picks and then turn around and give them a contract. Never pay twice for players. What do you always say? Now, again, we've gone against that. So, we did it with Chubb. We did it with Tyreek. So I'm not going to sit here and say, we don't do that. So, I mean, hey, anything's possible, though. Anything is possible, right? Like, let's again be honest with ourselves. Anything is possible in the NFL. Again, I just don't know if I see that. All right. All right. Let's get into. We got an update on Bradley Chubb and as well Jaelan Phillips. All right. Huge update. Then we get into my Phinside Awards, and then we'll take a look at what happened to this historical Miami Dolphins offense. So let's get into it. So the injuries to the Dolphins outside linebackers and top pass rushers Bradley Chubb and Jaelan Phillips not only sideline them for the season's most critical games, but they also create some uncertainty about their availability to start next season. Chubb sustained a torn ACL in his right knee on December 31st at Baltimore, and recovering from the injury often takes 9 to 12 months. New York-based doctor Andrew Pearl said in a phone interview that players are returning from torn ACLs more quickly, and 9 months isn't unrealistic in his view. If Chubb needs 9 months, he wouldn't be available until early October. An 11-month recovery would keep him sidelined until early December. He may start next season on the PUP, but the idea is he would contribute next season, said Pearl, who is chief of the Sports Medicine Institute and a team physician for the New York Mets. Running back Adrian Peterson came back from a torn ACL after 8 months, but edge player Chase Young tore his ACL and patellar tendon in Week 10 of 2021 and didn't return until Week 16 of 2022. Chubb sustained a torn ACL in his other knee, his left knee, in a game for the Broncos on September 29th, 2019. He played in the September 14th opener of the 2020 season. Safety Brandon Jones is the most recent example of a Dolphins player who returned this season from a torn ACL. He sustained an injury on October 22nd against Pittsburgh. He came back to the Dolphins September 10th on their opener this past season. But the Dolphins limited Jones' involvement in team drills and training camp because of the injury. And from an NFL calendar perspective, he sustained his injury 2 months and 10 days before Chubb did. As for Phillips' torn Achilles sustained November 24th against the Jets, Pearl said he believes it's realistic to expect Phillips back for the start of next season after essentially 9.5 months, but that's far from guaranteed. So there you go. We might have Jaelan Phillips for the home opener. Returning from that injury typically takes 9 to 12 months for NFL players, but a 2010 study by Lower Extremity Review said it often is closer to 11 months. Players usually need 4 to 6 months to get back to full activity, but several more months to strengthen the repaired tendon. Phillips had his leg elevated on a scooter type of device in the locker room last Monday. For Phillips, the 9-month mark would be August 24th, about 2 to 3 weeks before the start of the regular season. The 11th month mark would be October 24th. But several players have easily beaten the timetable. Former Pro Bowl rusher Terrell Suggs returned 5 months and 6 days after surgery on a torn Achilles. Yeah, he probably had the, deer antler spray that Ray Lewis had, right? Others need longer. Nick Needham needed 13 months from his Achilles injury before the Dolphins were ready to use him in a game this past November, but he could have played sooner. And remember, Byron Jones had botched Achilles surgery, and he's never been the same, right? A 2019 study, Factors Affecting Return to Play After Primary Achilles Tender, a cohort of NFL players concluded this. We found that 61.3% of NFL players were able to successfully return to play at a mean 11.9 months following a primary Achilles tendon tear. Players who returned displayed a significant decrease in the number of games played in the return season when compared with seasons preceding the injury. However, when we examined over one season following the return, tears appeared to not affect ability, and there's no significant difference in pre- and post-injury number of games played or started. Our findings suggest that players may return to pre-injury performance levels if given the opportunity. Pearl, who has not examined Chubb or Phillips, said people can lose a step with an ACL or Achilles. But Chubb came back strong after his 2019 ACL tear. Pass rusher Brandon Graham had a career-high 11 sacks a year after tearing his Achilles. Chubb, 27, had 74 tackles, 11 sacks, and 6 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries in 16 games for the Dolphins this past season. Phillips had 43 tackles, 6.5 sacks, and an interception in 8 games in 2023. One bit of good news, obviously, like I brought up yesterday for all you, Drew Rosenhaus said that Andrew Van Ginkel indicated he would like to be back this season, and he would be ready for the offseason workout. So there you go. AVG is an option. The problem is, how much is AVG going to want? If AVG is asking for around $10 million, you can't. You have way too much invested in edge rusher already between Bradley Chubb and the contract coming up for Phillips. You can't afford AVG yet. You could probably afford him around $8 million. If AVG starts asking for $10 to $15 million in that area, you can't. You literally can't. You just can't. So, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. If Phillips is back for the beginning of the season, I'm going to be really interested to see who's opposite of him, because Ogba's going to be gone. Is it going to be, Who is it right now? Right? Who is it? Right? Justin Houston ain't coming back. Melvin Ingram and Bruce Irvin, I mean, you can't rely on bringing those guys back. Who is going to be opposite? I mean, Cam Good? Are we finally going to see what Cam Good's got? I don't know. He got hurt too, right? Cam Good tore his, what did he do? He tore his ACL too, didn't he? So, he's injury. He's got a knee injury. So, and oh yeah, Good suffered, a patellar tendon. Right? So that's not good. That's not good at all. He tore his patellar tendon. So Good might not even be he might not even be ready. He might have had, I think he just had the patellar tendon. I don't know if he had the ACL as well. Did he? If he had the ACL and the patellar, that's worse than just having an ACL. I know he had the patellar tendon, and it was on a punt return, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But let's get into, hey, listen, that's some good news. We need Phillips back for the beginning of the year. Please. Let's get into my awards. All right. We are going to go over my awards for the Miami Dolphins. Listen, we do this annually, and let's get into this. So let's start off with the most underrated player for the Miami Dolphins this season. I got to go Durham Smythe. I just had to. Don't hate me, people, but I had to. I think Durham stepped up when, he ended up finishing the season as our third leading receiver. Listen, he stepped up. When we needed someone to step up, he stepped up. And I got to give him his props for that. Again, he only had 366 yards and didn't score a touchdown. But, especially in those, he was just screaming, feed me, feed me, feed me. Guy who just brings his lunch pail to work. In those last 2 weeks, I said we needed a game plan around what? Achane and the seams. And, he didn't have touchdowns because how much was he targeted in the red zone? Let's be honest, right? So I got to give Durham Smythe, my most underrated player award for this season. Listen, 43 targets. He caught 35 of those. Averaged over 10 yards per reception. He's the guy who stepped up the most when we needed someone to step up as a wider, as a third receiving option. Was it ideal? No, but at least he freaking stepped up. That's what I'm going to say. All right. I got to go most improved player for me is number 31, Raheem Mostert. I mean, he had his best season. Over 1,000 rushing yards, only played 15 games, 209 carries. Obviously, when you look at the touchdowns, 18 rushing touchdowns, as well as 3 receiving touchdowns. He had 175 yards. He had almost, 1,100 yards. He had about, 1,087 yards all-purpose, 21 all-purpose touchdowns, average 4.8 yards per carry. Listen, his body didn't hold up at the end of the year like we're all worried and why we all wanted Jonathan Taylor. But at the end of the day, you cannot say that he was not the most improved Dolphin this year. 21 touchdowns from Raheem Mostert. Who had that on their bingo ticket? So I got to give most improved player. Shout out to Raheem Mostert. Next, rookie of the year. Is it even a discussion? My boy, Devon Achane. Unbelievable year. Played 11 games, had 103 carries for 800 yards. Averaged 7.8 2.8 yards per carry. 8 touchdowns rushing. On top of that, had 197 receiving yards on 27 receptions, had 3 touchdowns through the air as well. And listen, would he have caught up to Stroud? Probably not. But at the end of the day, I think he could have caught up to Puka Nacua. I really do. I think, I really honestly think he could, be special at the man. You already know I think that. But this guy, man, he can be special. He can be so special. And we just got a taste of it this year. We didn't even get a full dose. Didn't even get a full dose. I mean, the guy averaged 7.8 yards per carry and 7.3 yards per reception. He averaged a first down or a touchdown on 36% of his touches. He might be the most explosive running back in the NFL right now. It's just the turf toe caught up to him, right? I mean, Devon Achane's the first running back in NFL history to average 7.5 yards or more per carry on 100-plus carries in a season. No other running back has ever topped 6.5 yards or more yards per carry on 100 carries or more in a season. I'm telling you, the kid's special. So special. So shout out to Devon Achane. Man, special player. Can't wait to watch him continue to grow. Love being right about that pick. Special teams MVP. What am I going to pick? Jake Bailey? What am I going to pick? Braxton Berrios? Listen, Jason Sanders hit some big kicks down at the end, near the end of the season there. By default, it was going to be Jason Sanders either way, but I do think Jason Sanders was good, down throughout the end of the season there. I think he showed up when we needed him. Jake Bailey was awful. Braxton Berrios was like, what am I going to do? Give it to a gunner? You know what I mean? So Jason Sanders, it would have been you by default, but I do think when you look at special teams, you did earn it. So I don't want to take that away by saying by default. But listen, even if you didn't earn it, you probably would have won it by default anyways. That's how bad special teams was. Certainly wasn't about to give it to Danny Crossman. Defensive MVP, it's got to be Bradley Chubb. I mean, this team was able to survive when Phillips went down. Chubb found a next level to his game. Was just an absolute monster before he got hurt. And honestly, that was the injury we never recovered from. And I don't even think it's so much on the field. I don't know if the locker room recovered from it. Guys were borderline crying when he got hurt. On both sides of the ball. It's like that injury was the straw that broke the camel's back in the sense of, man, nothing's going to go right. Nothing's going to go our way this season, is it? That's the energy that it felt like. That everyone in that room understood when Chubb went down that it's one of those seasons, nothing's going our way. So I got to give my defensive MVP to Bradley Chubb. Absolute studly season from the guy. I mean, what can you say that hasn't been said about how good he was this year? 11 sacks. I mean, 73 tackles. Couple pass deflections. 6 forced fumbles. 2 fumble recoveries. Absolute monster of a man. He shut everyone up who doubted that contract. He was just so good this year. You got to give Bradley Chubb. You got to give the devil his due, baby. Right? You got to give him his due this year. Right? He had 70 pressures, ladies and gentlemen. 70. From PFF. I mean, 70 pressures according to PFF. Now, I know Next Gen or whatever had him at like 90 or 95. Him and Phillips were leading. So, I got to go Bradley Chubb. And then, offensive MVP. Second year in a row. Last year, Tua only won most improved player. Tyreek won. And I'm giving it to Tyreek again. How can you not? Tyreek's up for, he's possibly going to win offensive player in the NFL. So, I got to give it to Tyreek. Tyreek, 119 receptions on 171 targets, 1,799 yards, 13 touchdowns, averaged 15.1 yards per reception. Played in only 16 games, was banged up and beaten up the most he's been in a season. But Tyreek is special, man. Tyreek is the best receiver in the NFL right now. Tyreek, please, next year you need to come back, kill the 2K talk. You got to do it organically. Like I say about Tua, when Tua forces the football, he doesn't let the game come organically to him. Same to you. You got to let the game come organically to you, sir. So Tyreek Hill, he's my offensive MVP. All right. Speaking of awards for this season, a couple awards that two Dolphins are up for right now. Listen, we got a couple guys. Well, actually, when you do the math, we got a couple awards that this team is up for right now, right? So it's not just the Phinside Awards. It's award day on Phinside The NFL, huh? So let's get into it. So Tua Tagovailoa has been nominated for the FedEx Air Player of the Year. Him, Brock Purdy, and Dak Prescott. All three of them have been nominated for FedEx Air Player of the Year. All right. So there is that. Go vote right now. You can go on Twitter. You can go vote for that. Go vote right now. Tua obviously leads in yards. The leader on this list in pass touchdowns is Dak Prescott, though. So you can go vote right now. And then that's for the FedEx Air Player of the Year. For the FedEx Ground Player of the Year, Raheem Mostert has been nominated with Kyren Williams. Remember how big of a fan of Kyren Williams was one of my draft crushes? And then he had that awful combine, and it hurt me. Christian McCaffrey, he's going to run away with this, I think. But Christian McCaffrey and Raheem Mostert and Kyren Williams have been nominated for the FedEx Ground Player of the Year. So, hey, go vote for Raheem. Go vote for Raheem the Dream. All right, go continue to make this an amazing season for him. And then as we keep going, if you didn't know, guys, the Pro Football Writers of America, they voted Tyreek Hill to the All-NFL team and the All-AFC team, while Raheem Mostert was voted to the All-AFC team, and Jevon Holland was voted to the All-AFC team as well. So Pro Football Writers of America giving props to three Dolphins and Tyreek Hill, Raheem Mostert, and Jevon Holland this season. So there you go, some postseason accolades for your Miami Dolphins. Now, let's get into this, though. All right? The Dolphins offense started 2023 on a record-setting pace. What happened to it? In the first month of the NFL of the season, the Dolphins had garnered comparisons to some of the best offenses in NFL history. A 70-point outing in Week 3 put the unit on a record-setting pace in the second year of the Mike McDaniel era. But by the Dolphins' season-ending loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in the wildcard round, The offense was unrecognizable. Miami's timing-based passing game wasn't hitting the middle of the field with as much regularity. Its running game wasn't breaking off as many long runs. And quarterback Tagovailoa, who was in the most valuable player conversation for the much of the season, had arguably his worst game of the year in Kansas City's frigid conditions as the Dolphins scored a season-low 7 points. Throughout the offseason, much of the talk surrounding the Dolphins is sure to be focused on Tagovailoa's play, especially in the final month of the season and as he enters a contract year. However, analysts and experts see issues beyond Tagovailoa, including the need to evolve the scheme and personnel to avoid the pitfalls from 2023. So, Daniel Laifusi starts here with scheme. There was a stark difference when the Dolphins' offense faced stiffer competition. Against non-playoff teams, Miami offense averaged 33.5 points, but against playoff teams, which the Dolphins had a 1-6 record against in 2023, the offense averaged just 12 points. In the passing game, cover 2 and other concepts that allowed the defense to pack the middle of the field with protection over the top gave Miami trouble. Since McDaniel arrived as head coach before the 2022 season, the Dolphins have been among the best teams targeting the middle of the field with pre-snap motions and play-action schemes that put defenders in a bind and open windows for Tua to hit speedy pass catches with his quick release. But to Bobby Peters, who has written multiple books breaking down the NFL offenses, Miami became a bit one-dimensional and too reliant on those middle-of-the-field concepts. Remember, Bobby Peters, I brought up one of his tweets on this channel when he broke down the scheme and everything, right? If you remember, I brought up what Bobby Peters had said, I think I brought it up a few weeks ago. I know that, but I brought up what he said, and again, I promoted him because he's a guy who knows what he's talking about. Bobby Peters is not one of those people who doesn't know what he's talking about. He is an offensive, I don't want to say guru, but he is a smart man when it comes to it. And, again, like Kurt Warner, a guy hinting to scheme is what's potentially holding us back. And there's, quick little fixes that could happen to this scheme. Anyways, in a video posted on X, former NFL quarterback and Kurt Warner also pointed out issues with the Dolphins, with what the Dolphins said, right? He said those things that are that they've just been really good at the last 2 seasons, and they've really leaned into them. Peters, who played college football at Division III University of Wisconsin, Platteville, told the Miami Herald in a phone interview. Now the issue with that though is they've leaned so hard into them to the point where defenses can game plan and say, okay, if we take these things away, there's not much, and they've gone so far down those rabbit holes, but they're kind of stuck in the rabbit holes. The Dolphins use play action at one of the highest rates in the league, but Peters said the offense's standard drop-back concepts could use more work, especially in third and long situations in which the quick-hitting pass over the middle of the field isn't immediately available. Peters also saw situations in which the ball was intended to go either wide receivers Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle, but didn't have clear safety valves if those options were open. Miami's run game faced similar issues, Peters said. With Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane, 2 former track stars in the backfield, Miami used a bevy of created outside runs concepts where the duo could get to the perimeter and showcase their speed. But the better defenses in the NFL rendered those runs less effective, and Miami couldn't counter with a consistent inside running game. One of the best ways to hurt cover 2 defense is to hit them inside, Peters said. Interestingly enough, the Dolphins' top backs got their most explosive plays on outside runs, but were more effective on inside runs in 2023. On outside runs directed either off tackle or off a tight end's outside shoulder, Mostert had 118 carries for 487 yards, a 4.1 yard average according to Pro Football Focus. But on runs that were between the tackle, Mostert had 94 carries for 531 yards at 5.6 yards per carry. Achane had 53 carries for 364 yards at 6.8 yards per carry on outside runs. On inside runs, he had 47 carries for 337 yards, a 7.1 yard average. McDaniel's play calling has come into question in his first 2 seasons, more so on the number of runs he's called, but the type of runs he's leaned on next season could also change. Again, we talked about this earlier in the chat, right? Someone brought up they need to run inside more, and I said they can run inside more. That's what's frustrating. And there's the numbers right in front of you showing that, yes, they can 110% run more. But what happens? They just, for some reason, choose not to run inside more. Even when you've got a guy like Mostert that's put on all this weight, right? And is at his peak, right? And remember, like, Bobby Peters also talking about, again, even he talked about all you got to do is find a handful of concepts that you can hang your hat on. That will make this offense harder to prepare for. He even suggested even just a few stronger backside concepts to complement the front side stuff they are good at will help a lot, right? So Bobby Peters notices the design flaws. Kurt Warner does too. Personnel. While the numbers show the Dolphins were better on inside runs, Peters acknowledged that the Dolphins' offensive line situation over the last 2 seasons likely could have swayed McDaniel's play calling. It's a lot of bully ball, Peters said, of inside runs, where outside zone you can have guys use technique and let the running back kind of make you right. With each of the Dolphins' opening day interior linemen, Robert Hunt, Connor Williams, and Isaiah Wynn, set to become free agents, Miami might need to beef up its offensive line again to be able to use a diverse set of run concepts in 2024. As for the passing game, better health and upgrades could allow McDaniel to feel more comfortable calling longer developing concepts for Tagovailoa. 2022, the unit had one of ESPN's lowest rated pass block win rates, defined as how often linemen sustain their blocks for at least 2.5 seconds. In 2023, there was a bit of improvement, but Tagovailoa's quick release played a big role in Miami allowing the fewest pressures in the NFL. The offensive line also dealt with a litany of injuries, including using 12 different starting combinations on the offensive line. Peters said another pass catching option, possibly a tight end like I've suggested, with more receiving chops could help Miami expand its profile, but with the current core, they've got guys who can get the ball. When McDaniel first arrived as the head coach, he said he would tailor system to the skill sets of his players. But as he does a deep dive on the offensive struggles against the best teams in the league, a major question will be whether the current scheme has maximized those talents and how far he needs to pivot in 2024. So that's a good article. I mean, that's a good article. Really dives into it. Really lets everyone know, there is more here than personnel. You need more. I mean, you see Martin lose his mind all the time on the Tua Tuesdays when we only run 2 concept stuff with nothing underneath for Tua to check out to. So, Kurt Warner's talked about this on Twitter. He said this offense needs to become more friendly. I mean, I showed his tweet yesterday. Only few quarterbacks in the NFL could do what Tua is asked to do in this offense, right? This is predicated on tight windows. The run game is to open up the tight windows, and the problem is those windows get even tighter in the playoffs. You got to have other concepts, and now McDaniel's kind of getting called out for it, right? Now he's got to become an adjuster. He has to. Or it's going to be bad news for McDaniel in the long run. Guys, do me the favor. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new. I appreciate all of you for coming through today for the show. Here's the deal. I'm going to be back with Richmond and ball game tomorrow. It's looking like the postseason, the offseason roundtable is probably going to go down next week, I'm thinking. And then I'll be back on Thursday. And then instead of Friday, I'll be back on Saturday with you guys this week because I got some stuff going on this Friday. So do me the favor, smash the like button. Subscribe if you are new. Timothy, how do I feel on us running no huddle and less motions? I think you go no huddle when you feel like you've got them on their heels, the defense on their heels and, panting. As far as less motions, I don't think that's like they love motions, right? When you look at it, we motion like 88% of the time. We motioned, I think 20% more than the next team close to us. They're going to keep going back to the motions. It's all about, you got to be more. This is where it comes down to being a better play caller and a more decisive play caller from McDaniel. So those plays can get in with 20 to 15 seconds so we can do the 1 or 2 motions and get the playoff. And then Tua's got time to check the defense if he's got to move motion out of it. See, that's the problem. The problem with all these motions, it hurts your chances to audible. Anyways, I appreciate all of you for coming through. Smash the like button, subscribe if you're new. And as always, fins up all day, every day. And I will see all y'all on the next one. Until next time, fins up, baby.